I'll just let a couple of you come in. Hi everyone. Thank you. I'm glad you like these videos. Right, so how do we deal with negative people? This is something that all of us will come across at any point in our lives. So understanding how to manage it and deal with it is so important. No matter how positive we are, if we are around negative people all of the time or a lot of the time, it will make us feel negative ourselves. And it's so important to recognize that. We can be as positive as we like within ourselves, but we will still be affected by the negativity of people around us if we surround ourselves with negative people all the time. Now, it's easy to say that we should just distance ourselves from these people, but sometimes I recognize that it's not always that easy. So this is what I was wanting to address today. So when I talk about negative people, what do I mean? I mean the types of people who are either venters, so people who are constantly venting their frustrations, the negativity that they're feeling, right? So people who never think of or want to think of a solution to what's going on in their lives, and they're constantly venting at you, right? So that's one type of negative person that I'm talking about here. And the other common type is the victimization role. So the person who feels like a constant victim all of the time and doesn't take responsibility for their actions or constantly blame others. So these are the victim negative people, the people who don't take responsibility for what they do and are constantly looking for things or places or people around them to place the blame on or place the responsibility on. And then you have the types of people who are a bit more vicious, right? Who take pleasure in some twisted way in kind of trying to ruin other people's lives. So that's the kind of vicious type that ideally we will stay away from altogether. And same goes for people who are more aggressive and violent. So those are the main types of negative people that I'm referring to. The most common, I think, that all of us will come across probably on a regular basis are more the venters, people who vent, or the people who victimize themselves. So that's what I mean when I say negative people. So how do we deal with this? It's easy to say just distance yourself. And if we surround ourselves with these type of people constantly, what happens is that we adapt, right? Our human minds adapt to our surroundings. Naturally, our human mind wants to protect us by adjusting to what's going on in our surroundings. So again, no matter how positive you are, you will naturally feel or be dragged down with the negativity if you're surrounded by it constantly. So it's not your fault if that's happening to you, because naturally your human mind will want to adapt to what's going on around you. So this is what we call the groupthink bias or the confirmation bias, which you might have heard of, where it's based on cognitive bias that makes us believe something that everyone around us feel. So when one person believes something and everyone else ends up agreeing to it, that's the group bias. So when you're surrounded with people who have an opinion, naturally you will end up having that same opinion. So it's important to understand that our human minds will want to adapt to our surroundings. So being surrounded with negative people all of the time or a lot of the time will naturally impact us in that way. So again, it's not always realistic to say distance yourself altogether. We will all at some point in our lives have negative people come in and out of it. But how we manage it is what's important. And it's not always realistic to say stay away from it altogether, right? So whether it's in your professional world or in your personal world, there will always be people coming in and out. And yes, it's important to set boundaries and not not select those type of people to be around if you can, whether it's about selecting friendships or relationships, things that are more within your control. Yes, it's best to try and avoid it. So that's a key thing to remember. Don't naturally kind of intently expose yourself or move or draw yourself towards these people when it's not really going to benefit you. If you can avoid it, do avoid it. But here are a couple of tools, 2 or 3 tools that I have in mind that might be able to help you manage it. So if it's the case that it's in your family or it's in an environment that you can't easily get out of, what I recommend are, first of all, this is one of the most important ones which I've applied to my life, and trust me, it works. The 1-to-3 ratio. So for each negative person, have 3 more positive people in your life. So when I say more positive people, I mean people who you feel inspired by, people that you that you feel good being around, or people who inspire you in any way, right? As a person, inspire you to grow, to become better. So these are the positive people that I'm referring to. So this is the 1-to-3 ratio. For every 1 negative person in your life, try and balance it out with 3 other positive or more inspiring people. That's one thing. The second thing, which again I've applied and I promise you it works, is the time and energy that you give. So even if you cannot control whether you have that negative person in your life, you can control how much time and energy you give. So whether it's, measure it out is what I recommend. Measure it out, and is it 1 day? Is it 1 month? Is it 1 hour? Is it 2 hours? For each person, try and categorize it so that you can assess how long to dedicate to that person so that it doesn't become overwhelming. And especially if you're a highly sensitive person or an empath, as a lot of you out there will know, we do take on and absorb the energy so easily, especially when it comes to negative people and those energy vampires, right, that we are so naturally, unfortunately, drawn to. So this rule is super helpful. The time and energy rule of how long will you dedicate to that person or will you give to that person, so that you have your limits and your boundaries, so you don't give away too much of yourself, right? So that's the second point. The third very important point to remember on a day-to-day basis is when you're listening, when you're talking to someone and in conversation with someone, when you're listening to them, you don't need to, you can listen and hear them, but you don't need to listen with attachment to what's being said. So, in other words, you don't need to put in all of your energy into the conversation. You can listen and be aware of the way that you're listening from a sort of outside perspective and just look at it from a different angle, look at it from an outside point of view as an observer of what's going on, as you would a film. You don't step into the film, but you watch it as an observer, right? So that's a really important thing when it comes to listening to other people. You do not need to listen with attachment. And if you are offering advice to someone who is being negative and who you're trying to help, be aware of the ego part of it, because sometimes when we try and help people, or even sometimes as empaths, especially when we try and rescue people, our ego does, believe it or not, kick in, where we really want to help, and then it makes us feel bad if we're not helping. And I don't know if you can relate to this or not, but I certainly can from my own past. If I feel like I've not managed to help someone, I feel like I've failed. So it's so important to be aware of that aspect. So watch your ego. It's not your responsibility to solve everyone else's problems, but you can listen from an outside perspective. So those are the three main tools that I want to offer you today. So just to sum up, 1 is the 1-to-3 ratio. So for every 1 negative person in your life, try and have 3 more inspiring, positive people in your life. The second is the time and energy aspect. So think about how long you give to each individual. Is it 1 hour? Is it 2 hours? Is it 4 hours? Is it 1 day? Is it 1 month? How much energy and time are you willing to give to that individual so that you know that it's a good enough boundary for you, that where you won't give away too much of your energy? And the third thing is listen without putting too much energy into it and without attaching to what's being said, without intending to try and rescue the person. How do you stop yourself from thinking about their negative comments over and over in your head? This is what you're asking here. Thanks for that question. This again is the attachment factor. When you're listening, you can either choose to attach to what's being said, or you can look at it from an outside perspective. So what I mean by that is, like I was saying a moment ago, really, it's like watching a film. When you watch a film, you don't need to step into it to view it and visualize it. What you can do is try and step out of it and try and detach from it in that way, because what's being said has nothing to do with you. It's about their experience. So detachment means that you're acknowledging that it's not your story, it's theirs. So when it's being said to you, you don't need to go into it with any intent to help, to take it on into your life. It's about them, it's their story, and it needs to be told from their end, and that's where it ends, right? So you're an observer. You're not playing a part in the film. You're just watching it. So that's about it. That's what I wanted to share today. So just to sum up, it's really important to know that you can naturally be dragged down. Your human mind will want to adapt to what's happening. And if you are trying to save someone but don't have the tools or the professional abilities to do so, it will pull you down. It's just like when you're trying to, if you're a lifeguard and you're trying to save someone, you'll be able to do it much better with the training that you have, as opposed to if you're someone who is trying to swim in and help someone but doesn't have that ability. You can easily be dragged down and sink with them. So the same concept applies here. You can't try and save everyone if you don't have the tools to do so. But if you're inspired to want to help people, there are other ways of doing that. So watch where you put your energy. You don't need to put your energy into trying to help everyone. Be selective, and if you've got a gift to want to help, if that's what you want to help, that's what you want to do, and that's what inspires you. So give that sense of giving into the right places, not to the wrong places, where it will only end up draining you. Okay? How do you stop yourself from picking up people's energies and feelings? This is the same thing that I was just addressing a moment ago. It's about trying to view situations as an observer and raising your self-awareness about, is the story mine or is it theirs? And that's a big first step. And it doesn't all come in one day. It comes over time with a lot of practice. But self-awareness of where is my mind right now? Is it being an observer of what's happening around me, or is it me trying to get too involved in it? And Take moments of self-care to separate yourself regularly from this, because when we're tired, when we're hungry, these are the moments when we naturally will not have that kind of emotional strength. So make sure you're fed, make sure you're rested, and make sure that you have those moments of self-care in between, to ensure that you are in a stronger emotional state of mind, to be able to manage your behavior, and become more aware of the way that you're reacting. Because we, especially as empaths, we get easily absorbed into other people's stories. So this is what we're trying to avoid: detach from from other people's stories and look at it from an observer's point of view. Okay, I hope that you found this helpful, and please do drop me a message if you have any questions or need anything from me. But again, I do work with people who go through these kind of struggles, and sometimes hearing it from someone helps up to a certain extent. So it helps develop an understanding and some degree of awareness, but actually creating that inner change does sometimes take a little bit more one-to-one guidance. So that's why I do what I do. So I no longer rescue people, but I now help people with the right tools that I now have in my tool bag. So if you're one of those people that want help, then please do get in touch, and I'd be happy to answer any questions for you. All right, I wish you all a good rest of the day, and take care of yourselves.